English shorthand dictation number 239. Dictation speed 120 words per minute. Ready? Start. Sir, I rise here to extend my outside support to the motion of thanks that has been presented here. I am deliberately using this phrase because there are a large number of issues on which we have very serious caveats. There have been a large number of omissions in the Honourable President's address to the joint session of Parliament, and we think that these omissions are an indicator of the things to come which do not augur well for our country's future and the people. So, I would like to touch upon those issues, and therefore I have deliberately used this phrase, outside support. Secondly, sir, this is the last year of this UPA government. We are supporting this government on the explicit understanding of keeping the communal forces away from power, but on the basis of a common minimum program. This common minimum program contains a large number of issues which are very important for the future of both the country and the people. This is the only year left for this government to implement this common minimum program. I think there have been a large number of omissions and a large number of weaknesses that need to be overcome. And in this year, we hope that the government will be able to implement this. What needs to be done for that is precisely what I would like to concentrate on. I would like to begin with the preamble of the Honourable President's speech. The architecture of inclusive growth is a noble idea. But what has been the reality and what is the reality in our country today? If there is any architecture that I can see today or the people can see today, it is the architecture of an economic bipolarity in India. On one hand, you see that there are 48 billionaires in our country. They are all billionaires in US dollars and not in Indian rupees. I have nothing against them. But while that is happening, these 48 billionaires have a net asset value of 25% of India's GDP. On the other hand, the committee headed by my esteemed colleague has given the statistics that 77% of India is living on an income of less than rupees 20 per day. This is the economic bipolarity that we are seeing in our country. If you have a shining India on one side, there is a suffering India on the other side. It is this gap between the shining India and the suffering India that is widening. This is not the architecture of inclusive growth. This is the architecture of exclusion of a majority of my people or the majority of the Indian people. It is this architecture that has to be changed. Therefore, when we talk of bipolarity, we are used to the fact that in the international atmosphere, bipolarity was always associated with the Cold War. But in India, you are developing a domestic bipolarity which is actually turning out to be hot. Why am I using the word hot? It is because tensions are growing. The economic inequalities are widening. If this is not corrected, all the visions that we may have of building a better India or building a better future and all the potential that we have today will be wasted. This course correction will have to be brought about by this government. That is why I am a little disappointed with the first few paragraphs of the various economic measures that the Honorable President has outlined. He has said that inclusive growth means inclusive governance also. I will come to inclusive governance subsequently, but many issues of this inclusive growth will come up when the discussion on the general budget takes place. So I do not want to raise them here. My senior colleagues will make our point of view on those issues. Sir, I would like to deal with the paragraph 8 of the President's address, where he concentrates entirely on agriculture. He talks of the issue of agricultural debt. I do not want to labor much on this point, but he has said that the target set for doubling agricultural credit in 3 years has been achieved. It is good that the target has been achieved. But then, as per the report of the National Sample Survey Organization, 42% of borrowers in the agriculture sector have taken loans from private sources. The bulk of your distress suicide is taking place within this section. If you have a loan waiver scheme which excludes this entire section of nearly 42% of our peasantry, then I think this is a partial measure that we have undertaken and not a complete measure. Secondly, the distinction between dry land and wet land has been made. The land ceiling given for complete loan waiver has one meaning for an arid land and a different meaning for an irrigated land. In arid region, we have known people who own 5 acres or 6 acres of land. Even there, the percentage of suicides is the highest. So, this needs to be corrected. It is shocking that the Honorable President did not refer to suicides. But apart from that, any measure that you take must ensure that farmers do not slip back into the debt trap. You must expand your credit, but at the same time, you must give them the minimum support price. There are 24 agricultural products to be given minimum support price. But today we talk of a minimum support price only for rice and wheat. Unless you bring all the 24 items under the minimum support price system and unless an adequate price is given to them with the expansion of credit facilities, you cannot resolve this agricultural debt. We are talking about increase in irrigation, but unfortunately in this year's budget there is actually a huge decline in the amount allocated for irrigation. If this is what you are missing out in the country, you are losing 200% of your production because you are not investing properly and managing properly. In our country, where there is a growing hiatus between the shining India and the suffering India, this is something that cannot be accepted. So, immediately some corrections will have to be brought about. The government must take this into account and give the assurance to the House and to the people that this will be corrected. The other omission which the Honorable President has made is that there is no reference to the issue of price rise that is taking place in our country. As the prices rise, the income is shifted from the wage earner to the profit earner. That is the economic meaning of inflation. So, the burden is put on the common man, and the common man is suffering because you are unable to contain this inflation. This is the single most economic hardship that the people of this country are facing today. Unfortunately, there is no reference to it. Why is it that you are not able to contain this inflation? This is a very serious disorder that is being created in our economy, and that needs to be considered by the government.